got a signpost, museum, chapel, toilets down the hill, and here to the church and the new graveyard. Church Street, no doubt. So this pedestrian area, as it were, looks like it's raised. There's a shell of an old window there. Maybe there was a building in this location. But here you've got houses and they look out. Their view, the garden seats, are in the graveyard of the old church. We'll go and have a walk down there. I think the church was destroyed by fire. If it was not fire, if it was lightning, I'll put it up on the screen. But I think in the 19th century, 18 something. And then the newer church was built. Clock showing 12:05 at the moment. The new church was built, but maybe I think that was damaged as well shortly afterwards by fire. So let's just go down there. I like it when you see the different coloured front doors, the small windows. Apparently Heptonstall was a centre for home weaving, and the upper floors had a lot more windows, or wide windows, so they could have some light for working on the looms, the hand looms. Ooh, bit of a traffic jam going on in Heptonstall. Let's walk down, see if we can find the museum. Shutters up at the window there. Amazon doorstep delivery. Beautiful cottages. See the pub, a White Lion. So they're open for food. 12 o'clock. Oh, 12 o'clock to 8 o'clock today. From a town gate in White to a town gate in Heptonstall. At the end of the building there. All that stonework. Been a little tiny window in there. Once upon a time, that's been an opening. So that's the entrance to the museum, through the archway. Let's go visit the museum. These are going to be going back, these houses are, they're going to be going back to the 17th, 16th century. Even earlier, maybe. Heptonstall Museum, open. So like Thursday to Sunday, 11 o'clock to 3:30. Sometimes we can't open because we're run entirely by volunteers. So always ring up before you come down to Heptonstall if you're planning on going to the museum. This looks like the entrance to the churchyard. So the museum is in the former building of the Heptonstall Grammar School, founded 1642. Rector of Thornhill, Lord of the Manor of Heptonstall, rebuilt 1772 and closed in 1889. So the sandwich board is there, so maybe that's where the entrance is to the museum. Heptonstall Grammar School, 1642. So that was the Stuart era. Little steps. Right, we'll go in the graveyard, seeing as it's open. Let's St Thomas Becket Church and Churchyard. It is most unusual to find two churches in a single churchyard, and few other examples exist in England. So what the information board is saying is that this church, which is dedicated to the martyred Archbishop Thomas à Becket, remained in use until the mid-19th century. Following storm damage in 1847, the decision was made to raise money to build a replacement. And the new church was built in 1854, or opened in 1854. But highly unusual, two churches in one churchyard. What it was saying, also on that information board, is that the average parish churchyard would hold around 15,000 graves. Can you imagine 15,000 bodies? Bodies buried on top of bodies, on top of bodies. If you just look at the top of the tower, you can see where the old clock was. You can just make out some of the Roman numerals. The imprint of the Roman numerals. There's all the headstones here have used as paving in the ruins. Doorway there no doubt would have led up a staircase to the top of the bell tower. Wow! Would have been floors, wooden floors going up. You see the different levels, different windows for each level. Wow, that's something. And back out of the doorway. The wind's blowing through all the ruins quite strong. William Stansfield and also Betty buried there. Got Agnes, Hannah. So far, I'm going to say it's got like a Haworth-esque feel to it. I think this is better than Haworth. I think it has more. There's more to see. Even so far, I've only been here 15 minutes. I'm really enjoying a look around this ruin. Apparently, in the old graveyard, there's a grave of King David. Some of you may know all about King David, others may not. We'll try and find his gravestone and I'll tell you a little about him. I would highly recommend anybody to come to Heptonstall. If you got a car, great, you can drive up, or you could take that walk up the buttress and up the hillside as I did. Although in summer I'm sure that would be quite a challenge, more challenging than it was today on this sort of winter's day. Temperature has been forecast to fall all this weekend. To the other side of the railing of where we walked down to where the museum entrance is. So yeah, this is a view of the church from this angle. It's great that it stayed. You know, they've preserved the ruins. No admission fee or anything to come and walk around here. Really, really good. Let's walk around the top end here. Not sure if you, I think you're meant to walk on the graves as the footpath on the headstones. So the bodies will be all in the ground. Church tower, at one point it was, half of that was bricked up, that middle window there. From outside looking in. This bench to while away an hour or two in summertime. Imagine if you gravestone an hour foot rest. (1907, 1927, 1908). Sarah Ann, the wife of James Jackson. Is it? A rose just bloomed today, thy will be done. In memory of James, son of Napoleon, and Eliza Brown of Hebden Bridge, who died 1871, aged 15 weeks. Also Sarah Brown, their daughter, who died aged 4 weeks. Also William Brown, son, who died aged 5 years and 4 months. Joseph Brown, who died, also the son, who died 4 weeks. Also John Brown, their son, who died in 1880, aged 8 weeks, also of the above. Napoleon Brown, aged 61, I think that is saying, and Eliza Brown. So Napoleon is buried here. Just stepped outside of the graveyard. This is the signpost for the parish church of Heptonstall. St Thomas of Becket, the old church, and St Thomas the Apostle. There's some Commonwealth War graves in here as well, it says. There's a newer graveyard further down in a separate section. I think that's where we're going to find the famous, well-known American poet. The reason a lot of people come to Heptonstall. It's an intriguing grave area here. I wonder if this is a grave for a prominent family. William Sutcliffe. Yes, the late, can't work out the first name. Sutcliffe, surname. John Sutcliffe, Thomas Sutcliffe. So this is the Sutcliffe family burial area. 1923, 1935, 1936. So 1927 over the other side. So only 100 years so old since that was last used. Got James Crabtree of Todmorden, Major Wild of Mythenroyd. Just wonder why people from Mythenroyd and Todmorden were buried here. One of the entrances into the church. churchyard is across the way, so maybe through there is where we find the grave of the American poet. Walking the wrong way really, because they've just got the backs to these graves. This is a larger memorial here with a cross. This is in loving memory of Harold Sutcliffe, Knight, bachelor, born 1897, died 1958. After he had served his generation, by the will of God he fell on sleep, and his wife is also buried in the same grave. So I've just been in the museum, £3 entry fee, because it's all run by volunteers and everything, so that's fine. I was expecting to pay. He started to tell me about some of the exhibits inside the museum building. He mentioned the coiners, Cragvale coiners. Some of you may have heard about these group of people, some may not. Now the leader was David Hartley, and he became nicknamed King David. I mentioned King David when we were walking around the graveyard. So I'm in the old graveyard by the ruins of the church. Within the shadow of the tower, come down and there's a grave here, and it's got a load of coins at the base, at the foot of the headstone, the gravestone. Gentleman from the museum wasn't sure if it was the custom in those days to lay the inscripted stone on the grave as it is here, or if they were stood upright as many of the other ones are in the graveyard. Not sure, but either way, this is the headstone for King David, the leader of the Cragvale coiners. David Hartley, 1770. The WH, 1789, is his father, William Hartley. He was interred the body of Grace Hartley of Lodge in Edrington, who departed this life September 1809 in the 61st year of her age. Also David Hartley, their grandson, who departed this life 1845, aged 25, and also David Hartley, also David Hartley, his father, who died 1847, aged 81. So the gentleman also Prudence Hartley, who died 1883 in her 86th year. So the gentleman was saying that WH was David Hartley's father, William, but then it mentions father here, so I'm not quite sure, but either way it's David Hartley we were interested in, and the coins. So the Cragvale coiners, the Cragvale coiners, so they were a group in the 18th century, and they devised a way of shaving the edges off coins, and with the shavings, with the bits that sort of filed off, cut off the coins, they created new coins. So it was forgery in effect, and they were doing this in this out of the way place here in the West Riding of Yorkshire, but they were doing it on such a scale that it threatened to devalue the currency at the time. Somebody grassed them up, someone was sent to investigate, and there was a plot concocted to kill this fellow who was investigating, the investigating officer. He was shot dead, and the people who did the crime were arrested. Hartley was arrested, the leader of the Cragvale coiners. David Hartley's brother managed to evade the the authorities. He was the one who had actually masterminded the murder of this official, the investigating official. So King David, as his nickname was, he was hanged at Tyburn at York, just where the Knavesmire is now. If you ever go to York, you can visit the place of the scaffold. So he was hanged, and his body was brought to Halifax, nearby Halifax, and his body was hung up on Beacon Hill as an example to everybody. If you're looking above the hill above Halifax, you see a beacon there to this day. That's where David Hartley's body was hung up, to show the populace what happens if you try and defraud Her Majesty's government, or His Majesty's government at the time. Yeah, so David Hartley, he's one of the sort of personalities of Heptonstall graveyard, and we're going to see one of the other main celebrity later, but for now I'm just going to go into the museum and we'll have a look around. We've got one room here dedicated to the weaving. No doubt this is a sort of hand loom that people would have in the upstairs of the cottages. There's a photograph image going on there. So remember, this is the old Heptonstall Grammar School. So these are props. There was a BBC TV series called The Gallows Pole, all about the coiners. These are props. Stagman. Wow, love the chair. Heptonstall Moor. Heptonstall Hebden Bridge. Sit down in our listen chair and listen to The Gallows Pole by Benjamin Myers.
David Hartley produced a pouch and poured half of it into the hand of the alchemist, who flicked the shears and clipped each coin in turn until he had a small pile of slivers. With neat movements, he circled the fire and roddled the coals and pumped the bellows. The remaining coins he deftly stacked in a tower on the floor. With his poker, he tapped the pot, and the four men leaned in to see that the guinea shards were changing shape, softening and collapsing. They were gaining a liquid sheen. The alchemist signalled for the men to step back as he unwrapped another cloth and set down beside him a selection of moulds and dies of different sizes. He carefully arranged them.
So the introduction to this part of the museum was saying coining, the shaving off of coins to turn into other coins of a lesser value, was quite widespread, and the penalties for such grew steadily more and more severe as the years went by, and eventually it became a crime of high treason to do this shaving off of coins. Apparently coins in them days, they were like pressed, so they had rough edges. They were a complete smart, neat circle like coins are today. So there was always plenty of metal that could be shaved off. The coiners' trials in 1770 began in York. King David Hartley stood trial accused of clipping 4 guineas. He was found guilty and sentenced to death.
Tapped the bottom of each so that their contents fell into a bowl of water that steamed with each new forged coin. Then he spoke.
David Hartley and James Oldfield were hung at York Tyburn on the 28th of April 1770. Little is known about Hartley's execution, but hangings were large public events, drawing crowds of over 100,000 for the most notorious criminals. Public hangings were abolished in 1868. I struggled to read one of the words on King David's gravestone, and it was Errington. So Errington Moor is where Bell House is located, and this is a photograph of it. This is an example. Was occupied by King David and his wife Grace, David's two younger brothers, and the father, also named William Hartley. So it's such a remote place that, you know, you could see anybody approaching, and it was way away from anyone prying eyes. So it was a large operation. At its peak, around 80 people were involved, all overseen by David Hartley. It is estimated that coining activity resulted in £3.5 million worth of counterfeit coins, some 490 million in today's money. Although they wouldn't have all been done by David Hartley, but it was just a common offence. I've just been given directions for the tea room, so I'm going to wander down to the right here, downtown gate, cross in. That's the second pub in the village. Sounds like there's something coming. But you can see the tea room. Guaranteed pure rich milk delivered. Post office. And post passenger's van. Militaria, old army uniforms, badges, drums, ornaments, flags, naval hats. There's an old organ in there. Oh, it goes right back. Swords. Oh, shame that's not open.
Tim, I broke a milk bottle in the road earlier. I was delivering it to you.
Okay.
My
Give me a
dog
second, I'll...
No, I'm just letting you know.
Oh, okay, right, thank you.
Trying to push it away, but
Chestnut Cottage. Oh, God. All these houses are gorgeous. Yeah, Chestnut Cottage, post office, the workshop. Heptonstall Parish Council. Motorsport. Right, we'll go in here, I think. Open 9 to 4 o'clock. Then cakes. Yep, we'll see what there is, what's on offer. So this is Towngate Tea Room. There we are, just been. Towngate Tea Room. And looks like it's run by a young couple. We'll go walking down further down Towngate as I'm talking. I'm sure we'll have to come back up at some point. But I went in there and I had egg mayonnaise and tomato sandwich. Got a choice of bread. I got a granary bread back. Look at this for the archways. This cottage here is getting done up at the moment. We'll skip. Beautiful. Must be so joyful to live in this village. And it's a photographer's dream. Just every place you look, there's a photograph. It's like a bit of a modern extension going on there. I'm sure there's planning rules that we have to adhere to. I think we've gone as far up. I think that is the road. If I'd found the steps that I needed to come up when I was going up that, main road, it would have brought me into the village by this route. Got a house here with like a castellated rooftop. Right, we're going to head back up. So, the tea room. So I got the egg mayonnaise and tomato bread back. It had been recommended to me that you have to try the lemon meringue cake in the tea room, and that's what I did. I had lemon meringue, and I'm so glad I decided to have the piece of cake as well. Absolutely amazing. Got to be, without doubt, the best lemon meringue cake I've ever had, and it was a good portion as well. That was £3.75. The sandwich with a cup of tea was £6.70. So not all bad. The place was pretty busy. About 3 tables in the front of the shop, and then there's a room round the back with more tables. So if you see the tables full at the front, don't think you can't sit down. There's a room round the back. So let's head up this street. We haven't been up this one yet. Church Lane. Maybe this is the back of the museum. Bank Cottage. That is in a hillside, a bank of a hillside. Look at the back of this. The old doors. There's been modern windows in there, modern carriage door, but the back of this obviously had the ivy growing up. You can see the remains of the ivy being cut back. Yeah. The entrance to the museum is around the front. I'll tell you more about the lemon meringue cake when we get to this. So there's a post box. They've got an old actual post box. George Rex, isn't it? That would have been George the VI. Can I hear a church organ playing? I think I can. Is it organ practice or is there a service? I've noticed that I'm seeing more and more visitors as I'm wandering around. When I first came into the village, didn't seem to particularly to be any others, but I am seeing groups of people. So, the man from the museum said I have to go through this gateway, turn left, and we know the new churchyard is down at the bottom, the new graveyard. This is Church Street. There's a post there, 1897. Good job I put my boots on for these pothole roads. This is a nice tidy group of cottages. Nice outlook as well, looking onto the church tower. Do like these mullion windows. There we are. This area has been sown with wildflower seeds. Well, there's been a bit of excavation work or tidying up going on. Looks like these people with a dog might have been to this grave that we're looking for. So we've heard about King David and the coiners. We're now going to be looking for the major, and I would say the number one attraction for people coming to Heptonstall, although there's really no need just to come for this grave. It's such a beautiful village to wander around anyway. And just noticing over there, these sort of like, they look like newer properties, but they're being built in keeping with the village. They've got like arched windows and like the mullion type windows as well, so in keeping with the village. Now there could be that other couple there who have also come to visit. So I'm told that there could be some things around the grave which will identify it from all the visitors. Quite amazing though that people are coming all these years later for this lady who, yeah, she was known in her sort of society. This lady was a poet. She was American and she married Ted Hughes. Now Ted Hughes became poet laureate, I think after her death, I'm not sure. But they lived in London, did Ted Hughes and this lady, Sylvia Plath. And they lived in a home of a friend of theirs. Anyway, Sylvia had a bit of a fragile personality. She had been known to attempt to take her own life on a few occasions, both in America and also while she was living in London. Eventually she did succeed. Ted Hughes had taken up with the wife of the pair who had put them up in this London home. So Ted Hughes was having this extramarital affair. He would later marry this lady, and she would also go on and commit suicide as well. So it does reflect on Ted Hughes, whether he likes it or not, or whether there's a genuine reason behind two wives committing suicide. Very hard to think beyond him, and did he have some defects in his personality that caused this to happen to the two ladies to do this. So there's a group of 3 people over at the grave now. So we'll go down and take a look. We'll go the long way around, give them a chance to look on their own, and I'll come and have a look. Oh, there's more people turning up now, another couple turning up. So yeah, and the lemon meringue pie is actually Sylvia Plath's recipe, original recipe for lemon meringue pie. And they follow that recipe in the tea rooms here at Heptonstall. So you see on the gravestone, it says in memory Sylvia Plath Hughes. Now Hughes is sort of like, it's like it's almost been erased. This is because a lot of people bear the grudge against Ted Hughes, and they feel that his name shouldn't be attached to Sylvia's. But you can see the number of visitors. It's the grave with the most amount of flowers on, fresh flowers as well. Must be a continual stream of visitors coming to pay their respects. And I've heard that people read poetry over the grave as well. So Sylvia Plath, 1932 to 1963. There we are.
What do we think would be suitable?
A number of things are being left, coins. Stones, just marks of respect, I guess. A way of remembering. Anyway, there's quite a few people now at the graveside, so we'll move away. So, yes, Sylvia Plath, the well-known internee of Heptonstall graveyard. What I now have to do is find an alternative route back to Hebden Bridge. I found like a walking route, which is what I was supposed to be following to get here, which I went astray from somehow. Couldn't find the route, but I've got one to go back. So let me just turn the camera off while I figure out where I need to be. I had to ask a gentleman coming out of his house there the way for this footpath. So apparently cross over here and take a right at this junction. This is going to take me down to Hellhole Rocks, apparently. Sounds exciting. So yeah, this is taking me out of the village now. Different route back to Hebden Bridge. So this will be interesting. Let's see if I can manage to stay on the trail this time. Newer build houses with conservatories on the back. Had to be built using stone by the looks of it. Left and right here. Everywhere you look though, it's just open outlook onto hillsides, because this is the Calder Valley. Old gate posts for something or other here. A pair of them. Continue on. A couple who were at the graveside, I think, of Sylvia Plath. They're ahead of me on the footpath. Oh, it's spectacular views from here. Look at this signpost here, danger, steep drop.